Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of White Label American. Thank you all for joining us today. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed to whitelabelamerican.com, what are you waiting for? Please do that. Like, share. You can donate over there, buy our merch. And if you truly enjoy what we are doing, hey, you can join us on Patreon for as low as $3. Or you can do the Jeff Bezos thing. I'm black and bald, so you can give us 100 million if you have to spare. But hey, $20 is fine. But yeah, we love you and keep showing love. Special shout out to my Navy mama, Toya. We appreciate your donation. And yeah, so keep the love coming in. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to give a recommendation today because I just turned 40. It's my first recording after turning 40. And I'm still in a celebratory mood. So yeah, we just celebrate me. So yeah, I'll find something to recommend at the next recording after this. But just enjoy, go read up or watch the stuff I've been recommending all this time. Enjoy. But by the end of this episode, you'll definitely have some wonderful stuff when you meet today's guest, who I'm so honored to have. So, who's today's guest? I have the great honor of having Mr. Talib Jasir. Who is he? He's a storyteller, he's a founder, he's a visionary, he's an author, podcast producer, and advocate for people and people and our collective power. He's the guy who is behind the Afros and Audios Festival. He's the founder. And this festival is something that I came into a few years ago, and I never realized how important this festival will be to me. And I've loved that festival since then. But there'll be more about that because you just need to hear from this brother because he's been impacting me in so many ways without my knowledge. So, welcome to the show, Talib. How you doing today?
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you.
And I didn't even touch on so many things because you have a lot going on that I'm like, wow, this gentleman. I mean, you write, there's a lot. Well, let's just dive in because I might just spend forever talking about just the intro and trying to introduce you. So I'm just honored to have you here and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive into your very beginning. But before we start there, let's go to your names. You have two beautiful names. Is there a story behind that and what are the meanings?
Well, not really too much of a story, but my meaning is Talib means knowledge seeker. Jasir means courageous, and feel like I've lived up to that
Hmm.
in a lot of ways.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. From the little that I know about you, I'm yeah. The names fit you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
your parents did right. So, your names are they Arabic?
Yes.
Okay, man, that's there got to be something. Almost there. I have majority of the names on this podcast are Arabic. Yeah, I never realized that until I started asking about meaning of names, and and it's like, wow, I back when I thought I knew stuff, I only thought Arabic names were just for only Muslims. And then when I started asking about meaning of names or where names were from, the influence cuts across being just Muslim or being from northern Nigeria or being from northern Africa or the Middle East. I've been learning. I had a guest who was born in the Bronx and her family is from Nicaragua. Her name, although most people who go by that name are are mostly found in Russia, it
Mm.
also has Arabic influence. And I was like, what? I was not expecting that. I wasn't. So, yeah, shout out to the Arabic language. And I think that's one thing that's helped me grow as a human being and change my perspective on many things. Being that I'm Nigerian born, where we are right now is very, very hot in the Nigerian space. We have our presidential election coming up next year. It's a big thing between Christians and Muslims, the north and the south, and there are people who just don't want to hear anything about Arabic. So if you say Arabic, it's like a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's unfortunate, but we don't even understand how big the influence is,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes beyond just um, Islam. It goes beyond just religion, and I wish that people will see and the message will change from yeah you don't just have to be of a certain faith to
Mm-hmm.
just understand that yeah the Arabic influence goes everywhere. Even Swahili, the language of Swahili has Arabic influences. A lot of food that we have in different parts of Africa is tied to Arabic. And yeah, so there's a whole lot of discussions that we need to have about how big that influence is, because I'm pretty sure if we look on the other side too, you see there's an influence from Africa there too. So we are missing out on a lot of things if that discussion isn't opened up.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah. So your name is Knowledge Seeker, and remind me your last name again.
It's actually not my last name, but it's my middle name,
Oh, okay.
and it's just the name I go by.
All right.
And courageous.
Courageous, Knowledge Seeker. So it can be called Courageous Knowledge Seeker.
We could go there.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. So um I also read that you're a twin.
I am.
So are you the oldest or the youngest?
I am the second born first.
Wow. I just realized my tribe we have
Firstborn second, I should say. I'm the
first
firstborn second.
firstborn second.
Yeah, which means basically that I pushed her out first. You can go check it out. I'll wait here.
Okay, this is the first time I've
Said after you.
this is the first time I've heard it said that way. Okay, that's a new. I have to save that for when next I run into another twin. I'll be like, okay, I got something. All right, thank you for that. So my tribe, I think we have names that are common for twins, but it's also common with Yorubas,
Mhm.
which is quite fascinating because we also do that thing of you can mix with Yoruba, you're not supposed to marry Yoruba. We have our tribalism too, depending on how hardcore
Mhm.
we run into. But most Yoruba that I'm familiar with, their twins are Taiwo and Kainde.
Mhm.
If you meet a Yoruba,
Yeah, so I would be considered Kainde.
Kainde,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, I had a Kainde in my class too when I was in high school.
Mhm.
I have to look up that person and see. You're bringing up some things I've forgotten. So, yeah, where was I going to go next? That memory now kind of. I'm remembering what I'm not supposed to remember now. I had everything structured up. Kind of go away now. Go.
Welcome to 40. Memory loss has begun.
No. I'm a wise 40-year-old. I was supposed to be like young gun. Look here. I'm a wise guy now, but anyway, let's yeah, okay. Now I'm back on track. It's coming back now. So, can you introduce us to your place of birth and what childhood was like for you?
Sure, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. However, that's just where I was born. I was my great grandmother actually came and gathered up my sister and I, and when we were about 6 months old, from there, and took us to the Eastern Shore of Maryland. So I grew up on a farm on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Chicken coop in the backyard,
Hmm.
acre of crops. I lived in a community that was completely black. And when I was growing up, we had a dirt road. And when I talk about where I grew up and how I was raised, it sounds like I was born in 1875, but I was born in 1975. But it was really a beautiful experience,
Yeah.
and it's actually where I just moved back to this past year.
Oh wow. So Eastern Shore, Maryland. What's the biggest city that's the most popular
Um,
city that's closest to
well,
that area?
Ocean City, Maryland, is something
Oh,
that
Ocean
people know
City.
about, which
Okay.
is a beach town
Yeah.
community. It's like Jersey Shore on the Eastern Shore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have I been to Ocean City? I, I don't think I've been there. Have I? I might have a relative that lives out there. Probably visited there once, right after I arrived in the States. Where was that? Yeah, we went there at night time. Or was it Ocean City or somewhere around there?
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
Cambridge is nearby, Easton, places that people know, Dover, Delaware, stuff, places like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I'd driven past Dover. Yeah. But I was just trying to compute if I had been somewhere around there. Yeah. Okay. So, what would you consider your favorite childhood memory?
Being there, really. I grew up, as you mentioned earlier, a twin, and so we had two of everything. My sister and I. My great grandmother raised us, and her brother, my uncle Jeff, he lived with us, and we were the only family in the community who, I would say, had means in a way. So we had this fenced in playground that had the playground set. We had two of everything: sit and spins, inchworms, tricycles, and so all the kids came to our house. We are a community of bartering, where people come with their crops, their food. We did the same.
Oh,
So what
okay.
we grew on our land,
Mm-hmm.
we ate and gave away, and same for other people around us.
Yeah.
But grew up on water as well, so we went fishing and crabbing and that sort of thing. And once again, whatever we had in excess went to other families, and vice versa.
Oh.
So that's the environment that I grew up in. And the only thing that reminds me of it really is when I go out of the country, like to the Caribbean or something like that. I haven't been to Africa, but when I see chickens in the front yard and no lights,
Yeah.
going down the street and that sort of thing. Where I'm from is considered down the road because
Mm-hmm.
it's down the road from the city.
Yeah.
And it was just that whole experience was beautiful. My great grandmother, who passed away when she was 93 in 2005, was one of my favorite people in the world. And so um, just being there and having that experience really shaped the person that I am.
Mm.
And it helped me to understand what community can look and feel like as well.
Yeah. That's beautiful to hear. I know people who I've interacted with, and from my days in Nigeria before I left, and then after I arrived here, and when I tell them about communities like yours, back home in our lingua, we consider that poor,
Hmm.
and they'll be like, "Ah, can't that can exist in America. Everybody's supposed to just be in a big house.
Mm-mm.
Everybody's supposed to just, that it's the pictures that we've seen. That's the mindset that the majority of us have, and we just only think that that's all. So like, even I remember one time I was talking to somebody, I think it was one of my cousins, and I was like, there are still communities in America that are just um about to receive electricity. Not everybody has electricity and all this. It's like, nah, you're just telling me this because you're trying to discourage me from coming to America. I'm like, it's not like I'm discouraging you. If your part includes America, then yes. Who am I to tell you not to come here? Well, if your part is to Canada, then it is Canada. I'm not going to tell you don't come, but I'm just letting you know that, oh, I saw this in the news and I was surprised. And
Yeah.
I've been to some places, and when I got there first, when I was brand new in America, I was that person like, how? What is this? This place is it? No. I was for some reason, I was even getting angry at one point, but it would take me time to realize that this existed, and it's also community.
Absolutely.
But I was looking at it from, oh, they're poor. This is bad. These people are not right people. And, But with time, you start to understand what's happening, what's going on, because you only consider this is good, this is not good. You don't. So your mind, there's a fighting going on within your
Hmm.
system.
Hmm.
Why are you rejecting this? Why,
Yeah. No.
So
I,
you
yeah.
don't get it. But when I even tell people now, then that shock is coming to them,
Yeah.
and they're going through all that, and they don't believe. And I have to now like sit back and like I'll let you let it sink in, and it's your time to go through that shock, like I did. And some will never accept it. Some will accept, and I can't force them to. But I recognize now, like you said, that yeah, it's community, and yeah, I'm glad that that's why one reason why I had to like bring you here to talk, because I had someone who was questioning me recently, like why are some of your guests not immigrants, like people born overseas? Why do you have people who are not born overseas on the podcast? I said, well, if you don't hear from some people, I pick who comes here,
Hmm.
and I know that they can contribute, because there are people who, when you hear from them, it sounds a lot like us back home, but we assume that just because they're born in America, they have nothing to offer.
Mm.
So we are better than them
Hmm.
because we're born where we suffered, we went through all the hurdles, and we only know community, we only have culture. They have nothing, so we are better. And then that's how we build that mindset, which is a form of anti-blackness, and then we'll come here and then we start creating our artificial walls that we don't want to talk to you. But everything you described now, there are lots of communities like that back home in Nigeria,
Absolutely.
and a lot of people can relate to that.
Well, it's historical.
Yeah.
It's us. Even when you see places here that are more concrete jungle, as
Mm-hmm.
you alluded to, and more buildings and that sort of thing, there's always been a kinship that occurs in especially places where there might be poverty, because people have to rely on each other.
Yes.
So in recent years, and I think more deliberately, that's changed. When the old folks' homes started going up, talking about retirement homes, or I mean, not retirement homes, but senior citizen homes and stuff like that. Meaning that the elders left our homes and went into a different home to live out their lives,
Mm-hmm.
so they weren't around their grandchildren like used to be.
Yeah.
Um, this separatism that we have, that we deal with. Media has a lot to do with that. Politics has a lot to do with it. It's separated us a lot, but one thing that I know for sure, just based on my own experience, is that we are a people that understand kinship and community, and no matter where we are in this world, we know that relying on others is the way forward.
Mm.
And when we lose it, it's just something that's lost. It's not simple. It's not that it's a intentionality behind it. It's something that is missing and it was lost.
Mm. That's Yep. I can't add any more to that. It's true. That is true. So you are also a storyteller, and it seems to me like growing up, you started acquiring stories. So what was the first story that stood out to you that you remember
Hmm.
that made an impact?
A story that was told to me
Either told to you or
that I created.
well you created, but whichever you want to go with.
Oh well, I have a lot of stories. I mean, I think the first one would be the story of just my own existence, the way in which I arrived. Where I was. My mother and my father eloped out of Salisbury State University,
Mm.
which is the city that I live in now. And my father's from Baltimore, and he came to Salisbury State. My mother was already there, and they eloped because they thought love was all they needed at 19 and 20 years
Ah.
old, and they had no sense of resiliency or or stick with itness. So not long after my sister and I were born, it was time to call it quits, and my grandmother, like as I said, my great grandmother, my grandmother pulled up in the yard and came and got us. And my
Mm,
great grandmother told my mother that she would raise us on the condition that she came back to school and finished.
mm,
And so that's exactly what she did.
wow.
And so that was pretty much how I was raised, and why um all the stories that about my ancestors. I recently did a recording. I have about 20 hours of recordings with my grandmother, who is now, she just turned 92 May 4th. And she told me stories about her grandmother and great grandmother that I never knew, of course.
Wow.
And so we just have a rich history. I'm very proud of the people I come from.
Mhm.
And so I've always collected stories. I've always thought it important. I was always the one sitting at my grandmother's feet asking questions about, you know, our people,
Yeah.
our land, why this, why that, And so I've learned a lot. So I've got a lot of stories. but I'm grateful for my own personal individual story.
As you should be, and I'm glad you shared that. Because you actually just gave me an idea. I don't know if it will work, but I'll try it. Um, I've been trying to get my mom to give me the to document our family history. She's the matriarch of the family. She's the oldest amongst her siblings, and she moved back to Nigeria about uh, just before the pandemic, a year before the pandemic, or just before a few months before the pandemic. So in 2019, and it was kind of for the community thing because she was living in a home for seniors. And I knew what had been happening because the arguments were just increasing. She was cranky. I being the most senior person in the family, there's an energy that comes from the way our system works. People just bring stuff to you.
Mm.
Like, oh, most people call her auntie. So, auntie, this one I'm dating. I don't like this one. This one is not good for you. That it sounds as petty as it comes and whatever, but it makes her feel important.
Mhm.
It keeps her going. Yep, you explain that to someone who doesn't know, they're gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But trust me, it works for her. So she needs to be where that's what keeps her going. So when she said she was moving back to Nigeria, I said, "Yeah, you'll be away from your medicine and all that. I get it, but trust me, that's what she needs." And I agree 100%? No, but I understood that there was a social side of it that she
Mhm.
needed,
Mhm.
and that's been working for her for the most part of it. So she went back and she's been doing, and like I predicted, that started happening. All family members brought all manner of stuff around her. Then she would come, like, oh, these people are come. Why are they always coming to me? I'm like, aha. It hasn't been happening for a whole bunch of
Yeah.
years, but she's enjoying it. She's happy, but she will sound like she's not happy. But it's that importance, that feeling of importance,
Mhm.
because you're the head. So, but every time the older I got, there were things that there were stories that would pop out every once in a while. My mom has been always secretive, and family always did that. Like, but once in a while, something would just pop out. Like, oh, you know that this person was. This is how you were supposed to be, and I was like, but why? Why did I know about all this? So by the time I became a father, I was like, okay, this is where we are. You and I might not see eye to eye on certain things. It doesn't mean we can't have the history of our family for your granddaughter. For your granddaughter, let's do this. So give me just the family tree. Can we have that on, or at least documented? So I think the mistake I made was, well, by then I hadn't even started the podcast, or I hadn't even thought about podcasting. But before she left, I probably should have sat down with her and probably recorded. So now that she's in Nigeria, it's a little bit difficult, but because she's not in Lagos or Abuja, the two best cities with internet. So the Zoom recording won't even work. But I'll have to find a way. I might have to, okay, we'll find a way to get over the distractions, but stay on point.
Mhm.
Just tell me the stories and then record. Let you do the talking. But that might be the best way because, yeah, writing it down is becoming a problem. But that might be the best way to get the story out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find our stories are much like language. If you don't pass it on and a person passes on,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. It
Yeah.
pretty much it's as if it never happened. And so
Thank you for that.
um, just as much as it's important to continue to teach the language,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just as important to tell our stories because at a certain point they will disappear with the last person who held them.
Thank you for that. That's true. I had an uncle who he was the spokesman for the family by the time he died. And last time I saw him was about a year before I left Nigeria. And there were a lot of things he told me. He was always a fountain of information about the family in Nigeria, family in Ghana. And I was just like, man, this guy, where is this guy? But he's one of those people. He has always been old throughout my lifetime. And I was like, man, this guy, wow. He knew stuff that happened with family in Ghana that I may not even remember now. And I'm like, wow. But those are things that then I was just becoming an adult. So I was like, you don't even think about documenting that. It doesn't
Yeah.
occur to you. So it's gone. It's gone with him. Because by the time I would even start thinking about documenting anything, he had died.
Mhm.
So I was like, man, that is someone who I would have bought a plane ticket just to go sit down with him and say, sir, just here we go. All that stuff you used to tell me, just tell me.
Yeah.
I'll take it right now. So then my other aunt too, who was like the next oldest person to him, she also passed away a few years ago. So the only other person, I can't, I can't even speak the language with her. So my mom is like the next person who I'm like, yeah. So yeah, I just have to get out my mom now. She's yeah. So it's important. It's true. It's just like language. So it has to be documented. Um, it's for my family history. There's stuff about my tribe, my culture that I keep getting every day, and yeah, that is a little bit more accessible.
Mhm.
But there's stuff that's tied down, and I think it's the Malians that made me realize that because Malians have been documenting, they had their transcripts, which has always been in existence, going as far back as the 12th century.
Mhm.
So they had it in writing, and so all families had it at home, and we never realized, like when people talk about history, people always talk like, oh, the government and like, but history is tied to families. Every family's
Absolutely.
history is part of a country's history, is part of, so yeah, so my family's history is part of my tribal history, is part of the whole Nigeria. I don't know if Nigeria doesn't exist tomorrow, then okay, then whichever country exists, then it's part of that country's history. So that's why I'm very keen to have it. I've tried to get some of my cousins in Scotland because I have Scottish cousins, English cousins, but they're on a different page for now. But hopefully now I've got a new fire that I
Mhm.
can use to like, hey, now I got it. It's like language. Do you want to lose your language? No, okay, then all right, let's do this. Thank you for that. Thank you. See that's another reason why I had to bring you here today. Thank you for all this fire that you've given me now. So yeah, I'm definitely going to jump on that. Thank you. So, um, how did you end up studying what you did at college? Now I'm jumping forward a little bit.
What I studied at college?
Yeah. When it was time to go to college, how did you know what you were going to study?
Well, I didn't. I didn't really even expect to go to college. I hadn't planned on it. I didn't really enjoy school at all. And to this day, even though I graduated and ended up graduating summa cum laude,
Wow.
um,
You
and
didn't you weren't the person enjoying school?
no, I'm just a genius. So I mean that's just the way it is. So
Yeah,
yeah, so
I
I'm
think
just a
most
smart
geniuses I know are like
yeah,
that.
I'm just a smart person, and
Yeah.
so which can get me in trouble sometimes because I do 40% of stuff and get by when I really should be putting 80% to 100 to stuff. So that's my Achilles heel actually that I could do better. I know I could do better, people look at it as it's 100%, and I know it's 30.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do better. But at any rate, when I say that, I'm saying it in jest, really. But I'm a sarcastic person. Um, but I didn't initially want to go to school, and I had elders who interceded in my life and said, "No, you're gonna go to school, and this is the path for you, and this is what you need to do." And so I started at a historically black college called Coppin State University in Baltimore, which was the first time I was back in Baltimore living since I was taken from there when I was 6 months old.
Yep.
And so I was there for about 3.5 years. And so one of the things I've discovered about life and our paths is that uh, everything matters. I don't know if you've ever read The Alchemist, but it's a
No.
book that tells the story of every piece of your journey um, has accounted for something. There's something about that experience that you may not know then, you may not know a month from now or 10 years from now, but eventually it will resurface as the reason why. And so there was a professor there. His name was Baba Hosey, and he taught sociology 101, and he was really African centered. So he taught us Yoruba and Kemet, and ancient stories, ancient histories, ancient spiritualities, and this sort of thing. And it changed my life. It shaped my life because before that, I wasn't really privy to a lot of spiritual beliefs. I grew up Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and so and Methodist Christian at that, which I didn't like. So there was just a part of my experience that I was meant to go to Coppin, even though I had no idea I was meant to go to Coppin, and I was meant to experience this particular professor. As well as I have one of my oldest friends, her name is Latifa, and we've been friends since college. And for those two reasons is why I went to Coppin. Not It wasn't about Coppin at all. And then I ended up graduating in 2011. Actually, I left that school 3.5 years and I ended up going to school at St. Peter's in Jersey City as an adult and graduating. And that's when I got my summa cum laude.
So when you went to Jersey City, this time was it different from when you went to Coppers that you knew what you were going for, or you?
No, I was so one of the things that I understand, and I want to really preface that I have my own beliefs that come from my own perspective and experience.
Yeah.
So um it doesn't, it's not for anyone to agree with it. It's
Okay.
just where I stand and who I am. And so I believe that America is a credential based society, right? And so a lot of ways in which to keep people that look like us out of things is to say you don't have what you need to be here.
Mm.
And so I went to school to out of scarcity, out of the fact that okay, I didn't have a degree, and the only way I'm going to be able to have a career is to have a degree. And so that was the only reason why I went back to school. Um, and so I went to school for public policy, urban studies, which was an adult program there, and I just chose it. And that was it, and because it was my way to get to my degree. As well as completed the degrees that I was taking at Coppin, which was social justice and Africana studies, and those two were more why I was there. But what I learned the most out of public policy urban studies was just my means to an end.
Oh, okay. It makes sense. It does. Trust me, it does. Trust me. Um, I probably didn't feel that way about the credential based society um, at first, but with time, I have come to recognize, and um, I'm more along that line of thought now than um,
I
back
think it's
when.
shifting. I
Yeah.
think it's shifting. I think more people are disrupting that,
Mm-hmm.
and more people are doing being entrepreneurs and skipping that process in order to um, do live on their own terms. And I'm also aligned with that.
Yes, there are more people disrupting that, but at the same time, I think that I've met a lot of people who kind of come from my background of you must go get a degree in this field, or because people will never run out of jobs in this field or from this profession, and then they go and then they're like, this is not what I want, or this is just the dream of people from, people whoever wants, this is someone else's dream, not mine, and maybe I should go find what I want, or maybe I should stick
Yeah,
to the
I'm a
dream,
big proponent of that.
and they start trying to figure their way, and everybody, what are you going? Are you serious? Are you going to do this? Look, people are losing jobs, and people are this and that, and like people. I'm not. My name is not people.
Yeah,
I can go find what, and if I
yeah,
will suffer finding it, then let me suffer. But I know I'm going for what I want, and then yeah. So if you make it, you make it. If you don't, well, you can always restart again and whatever. But they're figuring it out,
yeah,
and
yeah,
seeing that, and there are people who are like, what? That person is he okay? Yeah, but he could have been a nurse. Everybody I know, all the Nigerians here are nurses. They bought houses. I'm like, what if he doesn't want to live in a house?
right.
He want to live in an apartment? Is something wrong with him? Are you? Oh, you're the one influencing him. I'm like, no, I just told him. Are you? That's that your plan? Okay, fine. I'm not gonna tell you don't change it. That's your. As far as you're not going to commit crime, yeah. If you say crime is your plan, okay, just don't name me as your reference. That's it.
Yeah, I
we,
hear you.
we never met.
I hear you. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And I encourage disruptors. I mean, look at podcasting. Yeah, people in Lagos, Abuja doing. I'm like, wow. If you had told me back then when my uncle wanted to put me on radio in 2000 and 2003. And someone who didn't like me. It's not like he liked me. It's somebody who did not like me. He's late now, but yeah, he did not like me. But just from one day, we're talking current affairs in the house, and I was fact checking people
Hmm.
on the little I knew, but I used to think I knew a lot then. But I was
We
fact
all did.
checking people and college graduates and all that. I hadn't been to college, and this guy just looked at me. I was like, this boy, eh? You know, my friend has a radio program on Saturday. I'll take you there. You go at least you put you on for 10 minutes. I was like, my voice on radio. Everybody sounds like a professional on radio, aka white. Um, yeah, disappear. That's it. I disappeared that day. I mean, I didn't admit that for years. I will never admit it for years. But after therapy, and I had to own up the truth. The truth was I disappeared. Yeah, that morning, as soon as he woke up, he didn't see me. I was gone. Then another day, he wanted to put me on TV. He was going to take me to his friend who was over sports because he always heard me talking soccer, and he was like, nobody talks about soccer like this guy.
Hmm.
So the same thing, but somebody had been hearing my voice and was like, "This guy's voice. This is somebody who never liked me. This is
Hmm.
somebody who, if I was when I had to have surgery, and he would give me his money to hold. By the way, his money for his mistresses.
Mm.
He'll give it to hold. So I was about to die, and the whole family they had gone for a trip and everything. So people were like, "Dude, you have this man's money. Use it to go save your life." That's how committed I was. I was going to beg for money and I had money for.
Mm.
So at last minute, I was like, man, I'm dying. My cousins were like, dude, use that money. So I used the money. They were like, we'll go find money for you while you're in hospital. And he heard I used this money. He was mad about that
Mm.
and was like, he didn't care that I used it to save my life, but it was like I stole his money.
Mm.
And I'd never stolen money from him. I'd never stole money from anybody.
Mm.
He was cussing me out to everybody. But when he came to the hospital, he was, oh, are you okay? Everything good? So I also had a grudge with him. But he offered to take me to the TV station. They'll put me on air.
Mhm.
Live show. Dude, I ran away.
Mhm.
So they were, so coming from that mindset, I didn't understand. I was like, there's no way people can make it in that environment, like disrupt the system and be on TV or radio, or be on, even make it through podcasting. And I'm seeing people doing it now, and I'm like, I'm so glad that you all did not catch that stage fright like I did. And, don't use your voice like, yeah, because not everybody needs to go work in a bank. Not everybody needs to go become engineers. If that's your calling, then that's your calling. If your calling is to make food, then your calling, people are going to eat. So, yes. So that's why I'm glad that, yeah, and you can go to college for that if you want to, but if you don't need to, then that's also great. So, before we move forward, because I need to ask you about your work experience, because I found that interesting. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I gotta ask you about some of your working experiences before we dive into podcasting officially. Hi everyone, we've made it 2 years, and who would have thought so? So let's go further and make it 3, make it 4, make it 5, make it 6. Who knows? 20. But we can't do this without your support. So join us on Patreon at patreon.com/White Label American pod or linktree.com/White Label American. Go there and you'll see our Patreon link, and you can join us for as low as $3. We have bonus content, we have bonus materials. There's so much juice over there that we don't release to the public, and yeah, you can contribute in making this podcast better. You can send questions, you can send your ideas, and also there's a lot of new things that are coming. The announcements are made on Patreon first, because we have to, take care of people who help make this podcast possible. So you can be the one to make this podcast what you want it to be. Come join us on Patreon and make it what you like to see. Join us, make it fantastic. Keep the 5 stars coming in, keep the love coming in. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. And Talib, so you get out of college, you go into, let me see if I got this right. You will go into the field of marketing and advertising.
Before I left college.
Oh, you started before you left college?
Yes.
Okay. And now, amongst your multiple identifications, you're a yoga teacher, wellness coach. How did that happen? Like, marketing, advertising is like on the far side, and so what was marketing advertising like for you? And then making that switch.
Well, I still so basically, let's see, when I was after 9/11 happened, I was living in DC. I was living in DC during 9/11. As a matter of fact, I was working in commercial real estate on I Street. The White House is on H Street. And so my daughter, who was 2 at the time, was across the bridge. I had to go from Northwest to PG County. And what normally took about 15 minutes took maybe 3-4 hours.
Wow.
Getting home. Before I worked at the commercial real estate place, I worked in an engineering company, and so I knew about structural beams and that sort of thing. So I knew that these towers were coming down. It just was a matter of time. People in the real estate industry was like, they're not coming down, they're too strong. Like, they're coming down. But what made me want to get out of the area was, I don't know if you've ever seen Independence Day. Most people have. But I'm in the again. I'm in DC at the time, and so I'm driving, trying to get to pick up my daughter, and I look in my rearview mirror, and there's literal soldiers running through our cars, just trying to get where they're going. I get to one street, and Ted Kennedy is stuck in traffic as well. I'm at this red light. He's at this red light. Everybody was the same on that day.
Was he driving?
He was in the passenger seat.
Oh, okay.
I was driving. And so what I decided was I needed to get the hell out of DC.
Yeah, I
um,
don't blame you, man.
for the next few weeks and months, really. I mean, it was literally months. There was a tank that sat on the corner in front of the Bank of America every time I went to
Dang.
into work. So I didn't want to be there anymore,
Hmm.
and so I moved to North Carolina, and I lived there for about six years. And when I went down there, I didn't have a job or anything like that. I left my job, commercial real estate, and I went down there. Just wanted to raise my daughter. I've been seeking out the place that I was raised since I left there. But North Carolina, Durham, and Raleigh is just as much city as anywhere else. I didn't find
Yeah.
the rural that I was looking for. But long story short, I didn't have a job, and so marketing advertising was the first job that my temp agency provided for me, and that was in pharma. And so I've been in pharma marketing and advertising for over 20 years now, and I'm still in that industry, as a matter of fact. So that's how I got started. It was kind of happenstance. It was just a job that was thrown my way, and it became a career.
Hmm.
Um, and so my coaching happened. I've always been an entrepreneur, but I also been socialized and very scarce. And so my idea was that if I don't work, I don't get paid, and I don't have bills, and I live that way for. I mean, I don't have money to pay my bills, and I need to raise my daughter. Um, so for years, I kept the entrepreneurial spirit of me, dormant, and my creativity dormant, to do what needed to be done. And so I would say that my coaching was almost like my hero's journey, coming out of darkness, coming out of a space of a lack of awareness of myself, a lack of awareness of what um, we all have access to in this world. If it exists, we have access to it. If someone else is doing it, it's a possibility that you can too.
Hmm.
And so I became a coach in 2015, and it was really in between jobs. It was me investing in myself and the desire to no longer do the stuff that I had been doing, which was be scarce and stay in jobs that I didn't want to be in, just because I thought it was what I had to do, what I needed to do, what I was supposed to do, and what I should be doing. And so that's how the life coaching came into play. I've always been a person that people come to and that I'm able to work with, but there was no technique to it. It was just, supporting people whenever they need it. And so this was my opportunity. But it was when you do that type of work, it's almost the first time you also get your own awareness, self awareness.
Yeah.
And so I really learned a lot about myself and what's possible for me in the time of becoming certified as a coach.
Hmm. Yeah, that's I love that be scarce and the awareness. That's true. That's true. So there's an awareness that comes with the when you start this journey of in entrepreneurship. That's very true, right there. Yeah. So now that you've begun to work for yourself and to follow your dream, if I may put it that way, um, was that what was that the beginning of what will eventually become the Afros and Audios Festival?
Oh well, no. I didn't even see that in my future, and that's the one thing in which I try to impart on people, and that philosophy is that where I started is not where I am, and I had no idea that I'd be where I am today,
Mm.
like clueless. And so we live a bunch of lifetimes in one lifetime, and so when I started coaching, I still wasn't considering Afros and audio wasn't there yet for me. I was just coaching and working.
Yeah.
I'm still, as I said, I'm still in the pharmaceutical industry, in marketing, advertising. And so Afros and Audio Podcast Festival came from me. doing another program of self awareness, emotional intelligence, learning more about myself and possibilities of me. Um, Learning that I am enough for my genius, enough for the things that I consider and think about and want to do. Because for a long time I didn't believe that those things were possible for me. And so I was dreaming about it, but it wasn't possible for me because I'd never done it. And so one day I had to ask myself, if you never attempted it, how do you know that it can't be done? If you never attempted it, how do you know you don't deserve it or you're not worth it? And so it was a challenge for myself to push forward and prove myself otherwise. And so that's what I did. And so I started a program. It's called Momentum Education, and it's here in New York. It's on 42nd Street. And that we had to put down some goals, what we could attain, we could accomplish in 90 days. And there were different quadrants: family things, career wise, creativity, whatever it looked like. And so I put down this long term time dream of creating a audio story. I knew podcasting existed at that point. I wasn't in it. But for years, I've always been fascinated by radio, dramas, audio, that sort of thing. And so I put it down as something I wanted to do. And as I was turning in what I wanted to do, I called my coach at that time. About a week later, I was like, I need to take the podcast off because I can't do that. Like, that's too much. I can't do that part. And he basically said, please get off of my phone with telling me what you can't do in 90 days. Like, you haven't even started yet. So, like, go away. And so he made me keep it on the list of things I wanted to do. And so it took me the last 3 weeks of those 90 days before I even started writing the script. But I did it, I wrote the script, I cast it, I recorded it,
Wow.
I published it, and I distributed it within a 3 to 4 week time period. Still something I'm very proud of. And that was the beginning of me getting into podcasting. And one of the things you may have heard me say before is I think that people who build community are oftentimes seeking it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was doing when I started Afros and Audio was looking for a community. People who looked like me was creating audio dramas. And that's how it started. It was very niche. It was very specific to wanting to find other creatives that I could not only talk with and get support and learn more, but also provide a space for them to do the same. And it just wasn't what it is now. 2017, we weren't creating audio dramas like we are today. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black folks specifically.
Yeah.
And so that's how Afros and Audio started. But I almost pivoted because it didn't really go anywhere. And I'm a creative, so it's easy for me to start something and throw it away. And like, it didn't work. I tried. But for some reason, Afros Audio felt special. It felt like it was important, and it felt like it was necessary. And so I stayed the course, and I reached out for some support and asked some questions. And they said, you should start an event. And I think he was meaning a 2-hour meetup in the city. And I left there thinking, okay, I'm going to do a 2-day festival. And so that's what I did.
Wow. So why was Brooklyn the venue for the first Afros and Audio? Was there a possibility of another city hosting?
No. We were going to be in Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn is where it's at, even though I have a hate for it today, just because of traffic.
We're going to skip over the hate.
Yeah.
But damn right, Brooklyn is where it's at.
Brooklyn is where it's at. I love Brooklyn. I love the energy. I love the history of Brooklyn, especially when it comes to creatives. And so it started in one location. And a month to the day of the festival's date, I lost that venue, and it was hard because it was my first time really trying something bigger than I had ever done in my life, and I just lost my venue for it.
Wow.
And my sister had helped me maybe 3 weeks before about something else completely different. But she said, you never take time to feel anything. You just jump into solution mode. And she's right.
Mm.
Um, so I cried about that, and wasn't thug tears. I just always want to make sure that's clear. It was real tears. It was upset, you know. And long story short, I reached out to someone that I had met. Again, things just occur, you know.
Yeah.
This person that ended up where I had the venue reached out to me probably 2 months prior and said, I heard you have a festival coming. Where is it going to be? And I said, it's going to be at this other location. And she said, okay. And that was the end of it. And then a couple of weeks before that, I was told, this person is looking for something for an event. Could you go there and, speak, and maybe you'll be a part of it? So I went there. I recited this poem that I'd written. And she was like, okay, cool. We'll talk later. And it was at the location that the first festival was. So it's just all, the path, the journey
Yeah.
to getting there. And so it was on Bedford Avenue. It was actually the headquarters of Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to ever run for president. It was her headquarters in 1973, I believe, 72.
I know there. I've walked past there a couple of times. Well, that's all pre-pandemic now. Wow. Yeah, I haven't been there in a while.
Mhm.
And that feels like so long ago. That's been, goddamn, it's been 4 years. No, it's not been 4 years. It's been, 2020, there needs to be some discussion about how we address 2020, because that just feels, it makes everything feel like a 5-10 year gap sometimes. I don't know. It's a time loop thing, because sometimes I've been miscalculating how many years everything before 2020.
Yeah, it's only been 2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, but yeah, sometimes it's like, whew. But yeah, yeah, I haven't been there in a minute. I just say it that way. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So now I need to go on Bedford Avenue. Just been away in this part of Brooklyn, and east or go to East New York. There's no in between with me. But I'm changing that slowly but surely. So the Afros and audios will be coming soon. And will it be virtual this year, or will it be in person?
It'll be in person this year.
Woo! In Brooklyn?
No.
Oh, yeah, you guys don't do me like that. First thing I could, I'm just getting ready to show up in person, because that's one of the biggest mistakes I made when I began podcasting officially. I was still on that. I can do it. I can do it by me. So I didn't bother to look for community and all that.
Mhm.
And then I was like, it was true. Tea with Queen and uh,
Tea with Queen and Jay.
Queen and Jay that
Mhm.
I had of Afros and audio for the second year. And I was like, wait, there's a festival? There's podcast festival? Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, they do podcast festivals? Uh, wait, there are podcast festivals? It's a thing? Wow. I didn't know that this kind of stuff existed. Like, and the black people too. Wow. Where have I been all this time? I like this kind of stuff. And look how inspiring it is.
Mhm.
Seeing people like me talking there. And I was like, wow, I've been missing out on a lot. Yeah, it just felt like I came out of, it's like I came out of a time bubble.
Well, it didn't exist. I mean, ours was the first
Mhm.
2-day festival, period. And so before that, one of the reasons for Afros and Audio Podcast Festival is because you look at other conferences and you didn't see us at all.
Yeah.
It's not no speakers.
Wow.
And when we are on stage, we're relegated to diversity and inclusion conversations that we've been having for years and years and years. So
Mhm.
I know the problem, you know the problem. Why are we still talking about it?
Maybe in a way I wasn't, because I honestly didn't know about podcast festivals, but maybe I may have seen a flyer or two and seen that diversity thing. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but it's like I just fine tuned myself out, so I wasn't looking for community. It's kind of
Mhm.
like the way when I saw the Black Podcasters Association group. It's like because I'd seen a couple of podcasters groups on Facebook, and I went in there and I was like, yeah, I'll just take myself out of here
Hmm.
quietly.
Hmm.
As I came in, I'll just leave. Then I saw that group and I was like, this might be different. Let me check it out. And I checked. And I was like, oh, it's different. Okay, I'm at home. Finally, I
Yeah.
seen some
Yeah.
same. That's how I felt when I came onto Afros and audio because I was like, this is a lot different from. Yeah, it's just yeah, I felt I was at home, and I want to experience something like this
Yeah.
again. So I can only imagine if I'd come to the first festival, but by then I wasn't even thinking something that existed, so I wasn't even looking for something like that. If I'd known about it and shown up in person, oh man, I would have the wings I would have grown. I probably would have the wings would have yeah, I would have been flying, I would
Mhm.
have flown out. But yeah, so where's the next one going to be at?
Not sure yet. It's going to be either DC, Baltimore, or Philadelphia.
Okay.
We're
I've,
leaning towards Philadelphia,
all
but
right, they're close to me.
yeah, this
It's for
it,
my own. It's for my, the listeners. You guys will get there. And I'll post the flyers for y'all.
yeah,
But for
yeah.
me, I'm just doing this for me right now. I'm calculating the distance.
And it'll be October 22nd and 23rd, and it's it was in June, in the first festival in Brooklyn, and again Brooklyn summertime. You know who can beat that?
Mm-hmm.
But COVID had us pivot to virtual,
Yeah.
and because of that, it had us pivot a little late because I was really resistant to shifting. I was hoping that the pandemic was going to go away like any minute, and it just
Mm-hmm.
never did. So at any rate, we started that November date, and so now we're there, and so, but now that we're in person, we don't want to have people trying to travel before Thanksgiving and the holidays and stuff like that. So
Which makes
out
sense.
of consideration, we're hoping that October 22nd, 23rd is a good time.
All right. All righty. So you've given me a lot of your time, and I need to start asking some fun questions. So where should I start with first? We haven't asked you anything about food, and you haven't mentioned anything about food. And being a man who lived on a farm, you experienced a lot of farming. You got to have some. You've eaten some good food. So, and you've lived in North Carolina too. You've lived in DC. Man, this man, you've experienced food, and you love Brooklyn too. So now you have to betray one place. When it comes to food, give us your favorite cuisine. Where does your favorite cuisine comes from?
Ethiopian.
Oh, this might even waste time. Okay, Ethiopia. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Ethiopia. Wow. Okay, some Ethiopians gonna be dancing right now. What's that? Is it the most popular meal, or is there a special?
Oh, I love the taste. I was introduced to it in DC on
Mm,
18th Street. There's a lot of Ethiopian restaurants. So my mother took us when we were teenagers, and I've been eating it ever since. I
wow.
love Ethiopian
The
food.
Ethiopians got one. Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys got one. You win. You win. I love Ethiopian food. There used to be a place not far away from here, on Fourth Avenue, but unfortunately, they closed during the pandemic. Their bread, man, Ethiopian bread. You
Yeah,
can get.
injera.
Mm,
But my great grandmother was a chef as well, and she cooked all over. She cooked for Hollywood actors. She cooked in restaurants and hotels. She owned her own restaurants, and bars. So, um, I've always eaten good food, and my wife is a phenomenal cook. So
man, this man is.
I just eat and eat and eat.
Hey, hey.
My waist size goes up and down because of it.
So, is there any East Shore inspired cuisine that you swear by?
Sure, you know when you are eating a real crab cake or not.
Mm,
We are it's the Chesapeake Bay, and so we have a lot of seafood, and
yeah.
so crabs is something that is one of our specialties. Maryland crab cake,
Hmm.
and so I'm a snob when it comes to anything seafood. I know when it's when it's some bull.
uh, hey, yeah, yeah, you just reminded me because you had mentioned crabs, as part of your childhood, and how do you? So you good at? Can you still catch a crab?
Can I still catch a crab?
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
you can hold the crab. You good at.
Well, we use baskets. I don't put my hand in
Okay,
and
so
grab them. Yeah.
you get like holding the crab and all that.
Yeah, so what we do, the technique is there's the crab nets.
Mm-hmm.
You put something like a chicken thigh or
Yeah.
leg on, tie it in there, you put it in the water. When you start seeing that the rope, the string moving,
Mm-hmm.
you start pulling it up, and as you pull it up, the basket of course comes up.
Yeah.
You either have a bunch of crabs or one crab, but then you take it out, you dump it in the basket, you put it back in the water. You might have to refill the chicken because they might ate it all, but
Yeah.
so yeah, that was my childhood.
Yeah, crabs used to scare me, man, as a kid because of that claw.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, we used to have this market when I was growing up in Benin City. They called it Yanga Market. That was the seafood and yeah, well, it was technically a seafood market, but they also have. So I think now they call it the wet market because I think that's what they call it in China. But it's our version of wet market because it's like wildlife.
Mm.
So like some of the animals, so it's like seafood slash wild animals that you might not consider food in other places. Yeah, like alligator and stuff
Mm.
like this.
I love
So there,
alligator.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and crocodiles. I think we have crocodiles. I don't know if alligator was there, but I know crocodile was there. I saw crocodile. I still have I have memories of seeing crocodiles there. But crabs. So like one time, one of my memories that I still have was being at the market and I don't know if it was a basket of crabs, but somehow the crabs got loose from the crab sale and one was coming towards me and I was jumped up like I'm a pure city kid, man. Don't what the hell is this? A loose crab. And my mom was like, "Hey, somebody get the crab." And one of my aunts who was visiting from the village, because we're a riverine tribe, that woman just whoop, plucked the crab off the ground and threw it into the basket. And I was like, that woman is magic. Wow. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She just picked up the crab like that's nothing. I was just watching the woman all day, like, wow. And I got home, I was telling all the kids around, like, man, that woman picked up a big crab. Of course, I multiplied the size of the crab by the time I got home. Like, man, that was the biggest crab I ever seen. And that woman just picked it up and threw it into the basket. Like, what? The crab I couldn't grab her, nothing. And I'm like, what? Somebody can do that? Yeah, and a woman? Yeah. And yeah, you don't realize that there are women who that literally that's their job
Mhm.
to catch crabs and so yeah. So as a creative person, and I didn't even touch on your poetry, but maybe next time we'll dive into that. But as a creative person, I know that you appreciate music. So when it comes to music, I need you to give us three artists that inspire you. And for every guest that comes on this podcast, we automatically count you as a dancer. So you give us three guests that inspire you when it comes to your creativity, and three artists that um, get you dancing. We need you to dance for at least an hour. Don't
Hmm.
worry, we're not making a video of that. But three artists that get you dancing. Now you can give us the most popular names. You can give us artists that are local to Baltimore or your East Shore. So that you can promote some names. That's fine. Names that people are not the first names that come to mind. That's fine. But yeah, so that'll be six artists. So three for inspiration and three to get you dancing.
Okay. I'll try. So three that inspire me. I love Michelle and Cello. Um, I love Prince,
Mm,
and
can't go wrong with Prince.
I really love. It's I'm messing with my mind right now because I love two, Jasmine Sullivan and Janae Aiko are
Oh,
two of my favorite singers right now.
all right. Are those for inspiration or dancing?
Inspiration.
Okay. So now for dancing.
Dancing, well, I grew up in an age where we had to come out in the living room and dance to Michael Jackson and win a popsicle. So, um, I mean that was life.
That's
so,
right.
so yeah. So, of course, Michael Jackson. Um, Dancing. I don't know. I can dance to a lot of stuff right now. I love dancing actually. And I love Jadena, and I think he has some really good songs out there. And like Burna Boy, he's got some nice
Man, yeah, 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 no. That's
danceable
cheating.
stuff.
That's cheating. You can't call Burna Boy. There are too many people have called Burna Boy on this podcast. So
Okay, well
we rule that
that's
out.
that's what
But
I'm
since
dancing
you
to these
eat
days.
Ethiopian food, you don't do Ethiopian music, how you gonna be eating their food without their music?
I don't. Yeah.
What? Yeah, you need to go. Ethiopians, you guys need to come get him. Come get him. Like he can't just be eating your food without getting one Ethiopian artist. Have you seen Ethiopians dancing? That's some good workout right there. Serious workout.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I
yeah.
don't blame you for not doing Ethiopian dancing.
But yeah, so my daughter's a big influence on me as far as she's 23 years old, and she puts me on to a lot of good music.
Oh,
And
like
so yeah.
so Burna Boy is one of our
Yeah, one
favorites.
of one of her favorites. But she's got a lot of them,
Oh
and
yeah.
I trust her music taste because it's I gave it to her.
Oh, okay.
So
That's one good. You sound
yeah,
like me on that because my daughter, yeah, she's already getting there. She's just turning 4, and yeah, she's getting there.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
4 is a great age.
Oh man. Now when she's questioning me about where's your hair, like, can we talk about something else? Wake up first in the morning. Where did your hair go? Like really? Aren't you supposed to? You can ask about any other thing. Just that's what you woke up and that's the first that came to your mind. Where did your hair go? All right. So this has been fun. And man, I still have a lot I would have loved to ask you about, but man, we're gonna be here all day, so I gotta wrap it up. But final question: what would you like to leave the audience with? Could be from one of your poems. Could be something that's inspired you. It's your freestyle moment.
Well, I mean, I don't. I'm not a poet like that, so I wouldn't pull from that. I just have written some. Um, I really want to encourage people that you know, I tell people all the time, your greatness isn't about you, right? And what I mean by that is that tend to stay in the shadows. You mentioned that before. Even having all the evidence that you were powerful, as powerful as you are, um, you still were committed to being invisible and staying in the shadows and not using that. Um, because we have those conversations about not being enough for who we actually are.
Yeah.
And so when I say that our greatness isn't about us, is that the things that make us great, the things that we are capable of doing and creating, um, is really not for us. It's for the world to see possibility in us as well. Um, it encourages people to come out of the shadows themselves and they see you. Um, and so, yeah, somebody somewhere is waiting for you to realize that. And so, just be great and do what you came here to do. Come get what you came here to get. Um, and pursue life in the way that only you can pursue it because you're only one person. We talk about life being short, but it's the longest thing you or I are going to experience as individuals. My life is the longest thing I'm ever going to experience, so I get to pursue it in a way that is the experience that I want to have.
That's. Hey, you were saying you didn't write anything down, but that counts, man. That counts. That counts. And for everyone listening, if you want to hear the whole gist about my being choosing to be invincible, it's on Patreon. So yeah, that's why you should join. Get all the exclusives there. So once again, Umbana, that's how we say thank you in Ijaw, my language, my mother tongue. I don't speak it all the way, but I know some basics. But I also know Barang, which is from the Manjaco people. And I've gotten a lot of thank yous. I pick up all the thank yous from different people who've been on this podcast. So that's my way of saying thank you for coming on the show. Please, do you have any plugins you'd like to give and let the people know how they can find you and how to connect with you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram. You wouldn't know it, but I am there. Coach underscore Talib. And Afros and Audio. AFROSANDAUDIO. Everywhere, afrosandaudio.com. And we also have a creative branch, podcast network, Vanguard, podcast network, Vanguard PN, where you'll find original podcasts by myself and some of the people that I work with, Latrice Sampson Richard being one of them. We have a new podcast called Stories All Around Us, and I've just produced season 1 of the Turnaround podcast, which is a storytelling podcast. We're very much encouraged by the stories of others, and want to make sure that we provide a platform for people to tell their stories.
Fantastic. And you've already had Latrice on this podcast. Fantastic woman. And these are people, Talib and Latrice, among some of the people that I look up to. You've seen why. So come back next week for another episode. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoy the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.